So Danielle needs her camera and she's down there. Yeet! Uh-oh. Oh, that's depressing. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. I broke Danielle's camera rig. Definitely was not what I intended to do, but you know what? This has seen a ton of use and some abuse, to be perfectly honest, and we all knew eventually it was going to break. Now, the mode of failure was down near the bottom by one of the O-ring grooves, is where the top part literally ripped off from the bottom part, so it was literally just laying there in two pieces in the snow. Now, Danielle pretty much just filmed the rest of the time over there with her camera rig like this. And when we were up in Susanville, we went ahead and attempted to glue this back together, which was an absolute grade A ocean-going disaster. Didn't work. Thankfully, I was smart enough to pick up some T-Rex tape, which is just, an offshoot of duct tape. Very tough stuff, and was able to actually tape this together enough that we were able to get some great shots when we went up to the Redwoods later on our trip. And this also somehow survived kayaking on the Smith River. I think it helps that Danielle didn't, eat it in the rapids like I did, but I digress. That being said, though, it was time to retire this camera rig. It has done a bunch of good service and make something tougher. Now, one thing I do want to make clear here is this is Matterhackers Pro Nylon, and I definitely have to say it's a good material. I just honestly did not know what I was doing printing nylon, and I did not have a machine necessarily capable of printing nylon either. So if you do want to get into nylon, I have a video on that, but I highly recommend, if you don't have a machine to do it, set one up or find somebody to do it for you, because nylon's a very, very durable material, but if you don't print it properly, it will not hold up. Let this be a lesson. Oh, maybe don't go yeet your camera rig to your friend in the snow. Not a good idea either, but it did look good. Okay, that aside, I decided to come along and reprint the rig because Danielle absolutely loves filming with this style of rig. It is her absolute hands down favorite. But I decided to do two things differently. One of them is, instead of having the handles be printed as part of the base, I actually came along and made the handles print separately from the base, so that way everything on here is interchangeable. So instead of the base and the two handles being one part, so if something breaks, you're totally screwed, it gives us the ability to switch parts out as needed. Also, if transportation due to space reasons was an issue, it's pretty easy just to take a screwdriver, undo the 4 screws in here, flat pack it if you will, get to your destination, reassemble it, all said and done. Now for the material on this version, I went ahead and used Taulman's glass-filled nylon. You will notice it is not bright orange, and I had thought about dyeing it, but truthfully speaking, I have not had the time to run to Hobby Lobby and get some RIT Dye More dye to dye this with, and I'm also a little iffy on how it will take the dye because this is glass filled, and I'm not sure how that would affect the dye take-up of the nylon. That being said, in the future, if Danielle does want me to dye this orange, I will definitely go ahead and give that a shot because I am genuinely curious how well that will work. Now, I do know that Matterhackers does sell orange glass-filled nylon, but realistically speaking, I could not justify the pretty much double the cost for the same amount of material if I went with the Matterhackers over the Taulman, and I really didn't know how many things I was going to be printing in bright safety orange. Now, if I was going to be doing a production run of these, I'd either send them off to Sculpteo, or if I was going to do them myself, I would definitely invest in the material. But in this case, I think the glass-filled Taulman will definitely do the job. Now, probably goes without saying, but if you are going to print this material, being, it is glass-filled, you definitely need a hardened nozzle. In my case, I actually tried using a Micro Swiss plated brass nozzle, And by the time I got done printing 2 of the parts, I could tell that nozzle was just completely and utterly shot. So realistically, you really need more like a hardened steel nozzle to pull this off, which I did buy one for my artillery printer. Just note, hardened steel nozzles or even stainless steel nozzles have a much lower heat transfer than a brass nozzle does, so adjust accordingly. To print this on my artillery, I pretty much just crank the temperature to maximum, which I don't like doing, but for the sake of this, I pulled it off. And I also printed this pretty darn slow. The idea being is if I'm going slow, it gives the layers more time to bond and it allows the material a little more time to become a little less viscous. And I think this will hold up pretty well. I did do some test prints and tried to break them and found them to be quite durable. Although I think the new rule is don't yeet your camera to Danielle in the snow. Just probably a good rule in general. But I think for everyday filming and use, this should be well and truly strong enough. Now, if you'll excuse me, Danielle should be leaving right about now to come on up with me so we can go out camping in Kings Canyon. I need to finish up a few things, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you do want to check out our channel, I've been plugging it a little bit recently because it's kind of a joint venture between the two of us, and it really mean a lot if you went and checked it out. And it's a great example of what you can film with this little camera rig. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you here next time on Make It with Calvin.